Hello, guys. It's Frank from the Simple Gospel. Thank you guys for tuning in. Now, one thing that I wanted to kind of do today is just kind of give you an insight of what I've been kind of getting into. I know it definitely took a lot longer than expected. As a few of you know, I'm kind of going through one heck of a storm. Uh, but it's because of the storm that I am in that, as I said before, I get to go into the presence of God, and He hears me. Even when times are tough, I get to go into the presence of God and read His Word. And this is something that I was like, there's no way. I mean, I'd be worthy of this, and I'm not a single thing. But it's just been so good to know that when everything seems to be crashing around me, God is faithful. God is so good. So one thing that just broke my heart, I was reading through Mark. Let's start in the end of it. Now, there's few things that I've seen that have changed my life than the not only the death but the resurrection of Jesus. But one thing that we're going to focus on is what happens before He gets on that cross. And it's always funny because there's always these little details we just overlook in the Bible. We just try to treat this as if it's just a book that we could just read, like Harry Potter or Dr. Seuss or Captain Underpants, or if you're me, whatever. So we're going to be in Mark 14, verses, the end of verse 12 through verse 16. So I'll start on verse 12. On the first day of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb was being sacrificed, His disciples said to Him, "Where do you want us to go and prepare for you to eat at the Passover?" And He sent two of His disciples and said to them, "Go into the city, and a man will meet you carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him. And wherever he enters, say to the owner of the house, 'The teacher says, where is my guest room in which I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' And he himself will show you a large upper room, furnished and ready. Prepare for us there." And I'm going to say verse 16. What? We just read over this, we're like, okay, I get it. They wanted a place for Passover. Jesus said it's going to happen. What? How many times must we overlook that when Jesus says something is going to happen, it does? Kind of one thing that I feel like I've overlooked is that, God has a plan for your life. You know how many times we hear that? That's one of the most abused phrases in the Christian world. God has a plan for you. It's alright if everything's crumbling around. Hashtag got you in my prayers. We abuse it. And most of us walk around thinking, there's no way God has a plan for me. God uses even the lowliest person. Now check this out. They're asking Him in verse 12, "Where do you want us to go?" Where do you want? I don't know where to go. Jesus, where do you want us to go? Now think of this. Honestly, think of this. Jesus says, "Go into the city and a man will meet you carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him." What are the chances you're going to go into a random city and find somebody carrying a pitcher of water who is exactly the person that you need to meet? Now when you're following him, go wherever he enters and say to the owner of that house, verse 14, the teacher says, where is my guest room in which I may eat the Passover with my disciples? So many times we get caught up in carrying the water, thinking that it has nothing. This man, he was just being obedient to God. He was just doing what he normally does, just following through the steps, working hard for the Lord, just carrying the water on an ordinary day. He had no idea the greatness of what he was about to do just by carrying water. And some of us are just carrying water right now, just going through life, trying to make that next step, trying to build ourselves up and trying to follow God's will, and we're thinking that it's going nowhere. What is more mundane than carrying water? But you need water, don't you? So this is a man who's doing, giving for others needed, doing his work, and he didn't even know, just by doing what he is obedient for, that God would be glorified. And if some man carrying water can be glorified in God's kingdom, what makes you think God can't use you? Who scarred you into thinking God cannot use you? And wherever he enters, say to the owner of the house, the teacher says, where is my guest room in which I may eat the Passover with my disciples? What is yours? Truly, what is yours? The fact, just think of the command. You're going into somebody else's house, going, where is my room, which I may eat and celebrate Passover? Like, just think about it. Somebody walks into the house and like, hey, buddy, where's my room? I'm hungry. I need to celebrate Passover, man. Where's my room? Just think about that. And that's the greatness of God. That while we are carrying the water, that while we are being obedient, not knowing where he's going to provide. Imagine what the disciples are probably saying, walking. Because it's not like they were perfect. They're probably walking in the city like, where are you going to find this guy? There's probably going to be some like little hut somewhere. We're probably going to eat outside or wherever. We got to follow some stupid guy carrying some water. I know I would. So many times we just see like, oh, we're just caught up because there's no way God could do something that wonderful, that great, that big, that grand. But if you see here in verse 15, that he, the owner of that house, will show you a large upper room, furnished and ready. Prepare for us there. God does work in the background. How many times must we be reminded that even when it doesn't look like it, God is working? This was a door they could never open on their own. God was already preparing in the hearts of minds. Oh, you need to get water today. Oh, you need to have this room ready. So when my people come, they may celebrate me. What? I know for a fact there's a couple times that you can look in your life And when you look back, you can see that was all God. There's no way I could have made it past. There's no way I could have done any of that. Because when we wait on his timing, doesn't everything just fall in line? Whether you're looking for a job, when the right one comes, isn't it so easy? When just after application after application, after trying, you finally get that job? Or after trying to ask girl after girl out and failed relationship after failed relationship after failed relationship, when you're just like, God, I finally give up. When you get to that point where he's working on you, and then he finally, oh, hey, here you go. Now, my youth pastor, Mickey, love the guy. He's always warned me, you can't just go to God and be like, okay, God, I'm good, wink, wink. God already knows your heart. So be like, oh, we'll move on and be like, oh yeah, God, I'm good. I don't mind being single, or I don't mind being content where I am, but in our hearts we're not. God's promises come when we least expect them. Because how can you expect a promise? How can you expect a gift that just comes out of nowhere? Oh, hey, I've been thinking of you. I want to give you this. Do you see the importance of this passage? That God prepares something. Here is something good and holy and great and enough to celebrate. That's where they had the communion. That's where Jesus said, this is my body. This is my blood that will be poured out. It was all part of his plan. Most of us get so caught up in the traffic of life on the way to our destination that we don't think that God has the plan for us. We get so caught up in all the lights and noises, and there's no way. I don't even know when I'm going to work next week, Especially if you're working part-time or food, or your schedule's always changing. It's just so hard to know plans. But when we realize that God has set forth everything, that he knows the beginning and the end, he is intimately acquainted with all of your ways, as Psalms 139 says. Now, the greatest part about these few verses that most of us overlook is in verse 16. The disciples went out and came to the city and found it just as he has told them, and they prepared the Passover. Isn't that beautiful? That just by trusting God, they were able to celebrate with him. Who are we to distrust God when he's already has it? You can't be the beginning and the end if you don't know the entirety of it. Think of a movie that you've seen at least a half a dozen times. I know for 90% of you guys, it's going to be Star Wars or Harry Potter. So, spoiler alert, if you've seen Star Wars, you know how it ends. You know the Luke, I am your father moment. You know Darth Vader is Luke's dad. Spoiler alert. You know that. It doesn't come as shock to you. You know that, even when it seems like the entire Rebel Alliance is dying and there's no hope, there's that last second win, and then they take off the mask. These are things that you know. It doesn't surprise you because you've seen the movie. You are outside of that timeline. The same way God is outside of our timeline, looking at every little aspect. So don't be the one who doubts. And I'm preaching to the choir because I'm going to listen to this at least 5 times. Because I'm the king of doubting. I am Sir Doubt the Third. But it's his word. And we overlook it. I overlook it. The beauty and the power of such a mundane sounding verse. Or a couple of verses. And here's the greatest thing that I'm going to have you end on. My favorite book this year. And everybody jokes about this book. And I don't know why. I get it. The law, some of it isn't fun. But when you see it from when you see the law from the perspective that it is, it's God's covenant to be holy and righteous and one before him. It's beautiful. The law is beautiful. Now Deuteronomy 7, verse 9 says, "Know therefore that the Lord your God, he is God, the faithful God, who keeps his covenant and his loving kindness to 1,000th generation to those who love him and keep his commandments." Deuteronomy. What? And I love this. I love this. Because in Deuteronomy, God is like, look what I've done. I've given you houses that you did not build, cities that you did not fortify, land that you did not sow nor reap. I have told you. And the entire book of Exodus, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy, he's like, when you take over this land, when you do these things, not if. With God, there are no ifs. So follow him. Don't walk away. The breakthrough is just around the corner. And you want to know what the God that we have? We have a faithful God. Now what I love, and I'm going to fast forward to the end of Joshua, where in Deuteronomy he's telling, I'm going to give you all of these things. I'm going to give you the promised land. You're going to defeat these armies. You're going to do the impossible. He says in verse 23, "Now behold, today I am going the way of all the earth, and you know in all your hearts and with all your souls that not one word of all the good words which the Lord your God spoke concerning you has failed." Not a single word God has spoke according to you has failed. All have been fulfilled for you, and not one of them has failed. Against the giants in your life, against the sin affected by you, against the poverty that you've been through your struggles, through your pain, through your hardships, but also through your good times. When you said, God, I don't need you, I got this. He's always been there. So what are God's promises for you? Because he has them. He will not fail you. He will not fail me. You are his child. Think about if you're a parent right now, and if you love your child, you would do anything for them. They'll fall, they'll stumble, but you feed them. Give them a place to sleep. You make sure that they're safe. You're not going to let them go in some downtown Orlando alley at midnight. No. You're going to keep your child safe. What are the promises that you made to your children? going to protect you. I'm going to love you. I'm going to care for you. I'm going to teach you. And I'm going to discipline you so that you may have a future. Isn't that great? That God has a plan. Even when we don't, even when it's hard to even take that next step, even when we have no idea what the next move is, God already does. Sometimes things just take a little bit longer because He's doing all the work. He's doing all of the work and setting it up so when you're ready to cross into the promised land, all the cities may fall. That when you cross over the Jordan, the raging river may cease so that you may pass through safely. See, before they get over in there, God was already doing wonders to show that people in the promised land, God was putting fear in their hearts by all the things that He's been showing His people. So that when they go into the promised land, they're already terrified of the Israelites. See how God every time has stayed true? And I want to challenge you right now, right now, it's that important. Grab a pen and a paper. And I want you to ask this question. What promises has God made? And which ones has He fulfilled already? It's okay to carry water. It's okay to clean the room that's getting ready for the Passover. It's okay because God is doing an amazing work. You just have to trust Him. Because I guarantee you, when you ask those questions to yourself, and when you see those questions, and you see your answers, you probably smile and be like, wow, God, You've already helped me overcome the walls of Jericho. You've already helped me overcome 5 kingdoms at once. Surely You will help me overcome the giants in my life. Thank you, guys. My prayer for you is that you wouldn't just listen to this and be like, oh, that was a great message, and then forget about it. What has this done for you? My goal is that you fall in love with His Word. That you fall in love with Jesus. And I know it's not always easy. I'm learning how to do it myself. But when you realize how good God has been to you, when you start being thankful for the gifts He's given you, your eyes start to be opened. And you're like, whoa, I have an iPhone that I'm recording on. That's a big deal. Most people don't. I got it super cheap. God does great things. So let's focus on the promises that He has for us, but also remember the promises that He's already fulfilled. So it's okay to carry water. Thank you, guys.